Good evening, friends. Captain Vijay here, your host for today. On behalf of Maritime Universe, I'll be hosting, and we have a special guest today. He is Mr. Chirag Bahari. He is the Director of Regions from ISWAN. We all have heard of ISWAN, don't we? So we'll be talking to the director today, and we'll be asking him a lot of questions. So please join in, inform your friends, inform your followers, inform your viewers. Come watch this live. On board. He's doing a great thing for seafarers. We all should applaud him for that. Good evening, sir.
Hi, Vijay. How are you?
I'm doing good, sir. How are you?
All very well, thank you.
Okay, sir. Today we have the honor of speaking to Mr. Chirag Bahari. He's the Director of Regions ISWAN, India. I'll just talk a little bit about ISWAN for our viewers, sir. So ISWAN stands for International Seafarers Welfare and Assistance Network. It is a membership organization which works to promote and support the welfare of seafarers like us all over the world. So Mr. Chirag sir, he joined ISWAN in 2015 after the Maritime Humanitarian Response Program moved his services into ISWAN. He is responsible for the operation and development of ISWAN's work program in South Asia. He works closely with regional stakeholders to provide support mechanisms for seafarers and their families. He began his shipping career in 2004 after graduating as a marine engineer, and he's worked on various merchant vessels in different capacities. He's currently holding a chief engineer's license. Unfortunate incident which we will ask him later on. He was held hostage by the Somalia pirates on a hijacked vessel in 2010, and since then he has devoted his life to help seafarers and their families affected by piracy and many other challenges. His passion to serve seafarers has gained widespread recognition, and he has already received many prestigious national and international awards. So that's about what I could gather from the internet. Anything else, if you would like to add about yourself and about your relationship with ISWAN?
First of all, I would like to thank you and also to Maritime Universe for having us here. It's a wonderful, I'm sure that we will have a wonderful session today. And also, I'm very pleased that we could interact further and talk about the welfare of seafarers, which is, I think, is everything is there in our hearts, and the seafarers around the world, they look for, some of the support may not be monetary support, but then there are a lot of other things which they need in their everyday life. So I think ISWAN is trying to fulfill those gaps over there. And I'm very honored to be part of this prestigious organization and steering the way to reach more and more seafarers across the world.
You will, sir. Definitely you will. I'll just share a few things about ISWAN. I'm sure you can cover up the things that I missed. So, as we all know, welfare services and facilities on board and ashore is a lifeline for seafarers. So, ISWAN is a network of international organizations committed to improving the welfare of seafarers. ISWAN has a free 24 hours multilingual confidential helpline for seafarers and their families. Seafarer help is available 24/7, 365 days a year. Seafarer help is one of the direct welfare services ISWAN provides to all seafarers. ISWAN also works for relief fund for seafarers and their family members in need and a range of health information resources. ISWAN works with companies, unions, governments, welfare organizations and port for the implementation of MLC 2006. ISWAN also supports those who establish and provide welfare facilities and services in port and on ships. Anything else, sir? If I missed about ISWAN, you can add, sir.
I'll definitely, I'm sure that once you will ask me questions, I'll try to
Sure,
give more
sure.
here.
All right, sir. A warm welcome to you for taking out your precious time. I'll ask you a few generic questions. We'll just keep it short and simple. And I'll just try to find some relevant questions from the viewers as well. So, first question is, can you share how ISWAN provides support to seafarers and their families in just a simple language?
Sure. So ISWAN is basically an organization, it's a charity organization, which is there to promote the welfare of seafarers worldwide. And we provide various projects and programs through which we serve seafarers, and we provide these services to the seafarers. One of the important project is on the Seafarer Helpline. There's a 24/7, 365 days a year multilingual helpline free of cost, which is offered by ICE1 to the seafarers worldwide. Now, this helpline is presently it's working from UK, as well as they have people in India as well as in Philippines. And the languages, what it speaks is about more than 13 different languages: Hindi, English. From India, if you see, the Hindi and English are the main thing, but it also speaks about Chinese, Filipino, Russian, Ukrainian, Spanish, French, and few others, including Urdu and Arabic for that part of the world. So it covers a large number of seafarers who are sailing across in different part of the world. And every year we have, and this helpline basically it receive cases from seafarers directly through live chat, Facebook, WhatsApp. We are available on Instagram. We are available on every social media, LinkedIn, or wherever the seafarers would like to go, they can find us over there. And and as I said, we work also 24/7, 365 days a year. So even on Christmas, even on Diwali, even on Eid, we work, the helpline is always available for seafarers. So this helpline is very much trained to handle even emotional calls. When we receive the cases, when we hear the complaints from the seafarers, we understand, we try to understand their issues. And if it can be resolved within ICE1, we try to do it. Otherwise, we refer it to various other organizations. And as I said, ICE1 is a partnership organization. So we work with various partners across the world. And we refer these to our partners, such as it could be the other welfare organizations like Mission to Seafarers, Sailor Society, AOS, or it could be the unions, or like the ITF affiliate unions in various parts of the world, or it could be the other government or non-governmental organizations who can further assist the seafarer in that particular crisis period. That is one part of the work what we do. The second important part is also we look after the seafarers when they are going through any kind of traumatic event, such as piracy crisis. We've done a lot of work around maritime piracy, and we have supported a lot of seafarers who were there in captivity of Somali pirates, and now we are working a lot around the Gulf of Guinea as well. So we are assisting their families during this whole period of hard ordeal what they and their families have to go through. We try and provide them the emotional and the humanitarian support. We look after them once they return home. Most of the cases, the companies look after them very well. But if in case the companies are not looking after them, the charity steps in and provides them that kind of support so that they can again, stand on their own. Recently, for example, I'll let you know that there are Iranians who were released after 5.5 years of captivity from Somalia.
5.5 years.
5.5 years. So I'm not talking about days and months. So you can imagine the kind of status that their families would have been undergoing that time. So we were looking after their families during this time. They were in captivity. And also once they return home, we are helping them and assisting them to look after their medicals and again to so that they can get the skills so that they can rejoin. Either they want to go and work or wherever at sea or on the land. So they become capable and enable them to take that path where they can provide support to their families further on. So that is what we do. We also provide training to seafarers. So we provide this all to make them more aware about various maritime threats. And most of the important part of this awareness training is also on the coping mechanism. It is mostly related to the humanitarian aspects that the seafarer, when they see a crisis situation, when they see a pirate boat coming in, they might be, distressed, and they may be aware what they have to do. But when you are in a crisis, you just forget everything, and then you do not know what exactly you have to do. So we try and train the seafarers around that. We try and give them the coping skills and to make them more resilient. And if at all they get captured by pirates, they know how to deal with the pirates, how to deal with their fellow colleagues during those times. And once they return home, what they can expect from their companies, what they can, how to build a better relationship with their families. So all that things are been part of it, which I'm sure that every seafarer, nobody is trained to handle these kind of crises, and also that we can build up those things in them. The other things that we, other issues such as the abandonment, you might have seen a lot of cases have been
Yes.
there where teachers are getting abandoned and there have been unpaid wages. So we work very closely with ILO, IMO, ITF, and other organizations across the world, and we highlight these cases to the abandonment international abandonment database. Along with that, we also provide emotional support to the seafarers and the families during this period, and
Families.
take up their case with the relevant authorities. uh, it is a it is a very very pathetic situation where the seafarers who join the ship to earn money and then they find themselves on unseaworthy vessels or sometimes on a vessels where they do not have power or even to make food or prepare food or something, but and they have to live
True.
with those conditions. And after going on that vessels, they cannot even sign off, and they have no rights over there. Their dignity is at stake, and because of the various rules and regulations they have to follow, that the seafarers, the safe manning things which they have to follow, that the seafarers beside, they have to stay on board whatever the reasons may be, unless and until the court, if the vessel is arrested, allows them to return home. So their families also goes through a lot of difficult ordeal, because they, most of the case, the seafarers are the earning members, and so we try and be there with the families during this time and try and help them out in these situations. One of the important aspect is also around the mental health and physical well-being of seafarers. As you know that we are becoming too much of commercialized, less number of seafarers on board. The social interactions are missing nowadays. People are mostly on their phones, laptops after their working hours. People have stopped interacting or playing or doing some activities on board nowadays.
Yes.
We are doing a lot of work around mental health and social interaction so that we can bring back seafarers again on the in the mess room or in a common area, where after the work they can again rejoin, they can do some activities, they can interact with their fellow colleagues. It's all about building their relationships with their fellow colleagues. Yeah, and on board, as you always say, it's like a second home. And at home, you have to have a good relationship with your fellow colleagues, otherwise you cannot survive. So it's all
True.
about how to get that factors built in, and how to promote that awareness among the seafarers to again come back. And because we have seen a lot of cases where seafarers are suspiciously missing from the ship, they have committed suicide. Last week we have
Yes.
handled at least one case where the seafarers committed suicide, and the seafarer is missing from the ship. And so you can imagine the kind of trauma what the family undergoes in that time. And they have no clue at all what would have happened to him, what were the factors which have led to all these issues. And frankly speaking, there is no definite answers to their questions. And we do provide emotional support and the counseling support to the families, but that is exactly, what they need is to understand it, what actually happened. And these questions will never be answered, or sometimes get doesn't get any answers to these questions.
Yes, sir.
So we are trying to promote the mental wellness among seafarers when they are on board. We provide a lot of training. We have issued to the seafarers through different companies. We what are the positive signs that they need to look into, and what are the positive coping skills mechanisms they can build in when they're feeling lonely on board, or when they not want to interact with others and they're feeling some kind of stress around. We are also issued some guides for the seafarers, steps to positive mental health guide, psychological well-being guide, as well as the managing stress and sleep at sea guide. These are very, very easy
I've
and
seen those books on the website, sir.
yeah. So these are the seekers can download those things, and they give a lot of information about basic simple languages. They are available in different languages as well. But
Yeah.
the communication part is like basically they want to, how do you interact with your fellow colleagues? What are the good things that you need to do? It's all about looking after yourself first on board, and what are the things you can adapt to. So the seafarers may find it very, very useful to go through these guys. And through your medium, this also, I'll request the seafarers who are listening to this, please download these guides. These are for you. It doesn't charge anything. You just have to download it whenever you get an internet. Read it in your free time. This is going to help you. These guides are available on ICE1's website. And the other things, I think we also, on the side, we also work a lot with the establishment of port welfare committees. Basically, it's all around that the Maritime Labour Convention, which requires that the port should have a welfare board. and we encourage ports to set up these welfare committees so that whenever the ships visit these ports, they have a provision to provide welfare support to the seafarers. For example, when nowadays, as you are aware that there are less number of days that the ship can stay on in a port, and then many a times you don't have permissions to go outside of the port. Again, first of all, with the COVID thing, and even before COVID, a lot of cases have happened where the seafarers were not able to go out of the port area. So what we try and encourage is that the ports must have inside a center, a seafarer center or a welfare center where the seafarers can go and visit there, and they can try and do some recreational activities. So these all things again try to help in building up bonds between the seafarers on board, and also that will increase their productivity, and they will reduce their mental stress what they have gone through. And it's a kind of, just even for a couple of hours, if you come out from the ship and you are in a different environment, you can eat some kind of different food. For example, for on board ship, you may not like every time the food that is being prepared because the cook may be from a different country. But then once you are come back, you can have your own choice of food, and that gives a lot of motivation and encouragement for a person, as a human being. So all these small things we are trying to capture in and trying to promote it around, which can help the seafarers overall physical as well as mental well-being. So we do work around various of lot of these things which I just mentioned, but yeah, so yeah, we work with partners to help us in getting this.
That is there, sir. As you have been a seafarer as well. So it's, I mean, if you come to know that there is a seafarer center within the port limits, everybody would want to complete their watch, go there, have something to eat, and Wi-Fi. Those days there were no internet on board ships, so you go and get Wi-Fi, you play pool, just chit chat with other seafarers, and you get refreshed, and then you come back, and then you're charged up for the next port till the next port.
Absolutely. That is what I think is required right now, and we're trying to get this done in India as well. We have had several meetings in that regards with the Director General Shipping Office as well as the Ministry of Shipping Office as well. I'm hopeful that things will be done in favor of the seafarers, and these things will also be taken on board for the welfare of seafarers.
Yes, sir. I would urge all the viewers, and when this video will be uploaded on the Maritime Universe as well as my page and also your page, I would urge all the viewers to download. The books is freely available. I just downloaded one today. It's freely available. It's very good, and I saw it's available in Hindi as well. So multiple languages. So what else do you want? So please, guys, go visit the website and download the book. Now, sir, now coming to your personal experience, one incident happened in your life which transformed you completely, and then you decided to work for the betterment of the seafarers. Can you just share your experience, sir?
I'm sure they're referring to my piracy incident, and so this
Unfortunately, yes.
happened when I was sailing on board a ship in 2010, and my ship and the 22 crew members were basically, the vessel was hijacked by Somali pirates in the daylight, and we could not do much to prevent that. And after that, we was in captivity for about 8 months,
8 months.
and we went through a very, very difficult ordeal in between that. It was an ordeal where you don't want to remember again and again, but at the same time, I've used that to try and make the life of seafarers a little bit more better. By the experiences what we have gained, by the other seafarers have shared with us, the audio what shared, and how it can be made. How can the seafarers can have a better life during captivity? Like when we were in captivity, we did not know how to deal with the pirates. We did not know what are the challenges we are going to expect from them, or what are the things which we have to maintain, and how do we have, what we have to, on everyday basis, how do we deal with even with our own crew. Because once you stay in captivity and all that, the master is not the master, the cook is not the cook. The people can raise their hands and say that, oh yes, I'm in captivity, I do not want to do any work, but it doesn't help the situation. It actually worsens the situation, and the top management of, who are there, they have to look after the fellow colleagues, and the relationships between the crew members is very important, and I think the leadership skills again plays a very important role out here. That how the leadership skills, how the leaders play it out during this kind of crisis as well. And this is what we have tried to gather that in the training course as well. We have tried to get to the seafairs that how to maintain hierarchy of ranks and how do you maintain the unity. Because the lessons what we have learned during this ordeal, the pirates used to treat us so badly that they used to do a divide and game kind of game with us, divide and rule game with us. They treat some of the seafarers very nicely and take the
Okay.
advantages from them and give them some more benefits to them. And then on the other side, they used to, physically assault us and on the verge of even killing us, one of us. So there were situations which were very very tense. So there were not days but weeks. So when we could not had proper meals and we do not want to sleep. There was a situation at a given time when we really wanted to end our life as well in that situation, because the pain which we were getting, the physical pain which was amounted to us was beyond imaginable for a normal person. We have only heard about third degree torture, this, and I do not know what kind of tortures were they. First of all, I cannot tell you, but it was beyond somebody can even sustain those kind of things. And we, for hours, we were used to have, and then when we were getting beaten up, our fellow colleagues used to hear our screams, shouting for help and all that. So there were scenarios when we used to hear the screams of our colleagues when they
Colleagues.
were beaten up. And we used to be, in a situation where again, because we know that then anytime it could happen to us as well. So yeah, you may find a lot of things about me. I've spoken a lot on this particular topic on Google. If you Google it, a lot of things.
Sure,
But
sir.
this is basically not to frighten up anyone, but not to harass anyone, but just to make an awareness among seafarers that yes, what you need to do is that you need to have a proper lookouts. You need, before when you enter this piracy areas, you need to have maintain a proper drills and all that. You should know how to use the citadel. So all these basic concepts should be there. When we were hijacked, we had no
There
concept of
was
citadel.
no.
Nothing at all, and there was hardly any lookouts happening, or people were we were just hoping that we have put up the razor wires and fire hoses and that's enough, but that was actually not enough. So now
Not
we're
enough.
making more and more awareness, and frankly speaking, in the Indian Ocean, the seafarers are not been there was none of the ship which had been hijacked in the last couple of years. In Gulf of Guinea, the situation is very tense. And a lot of these seafarers, I think in many of the ships, the attacks have happened, but at the same time, the seafarers have used their skills and maneuvered their vessels very well in the crisis situation so that they have come out of it. So as the seafarers will get more and more awareness what to do and how to do it in the crisis situation, things will improve better on. On one side, people can argue with me on that why seafarers have to do all that, and it's the safety and security. Why? But that's a long-term situation because the safety and security of any region will not change overnight. What do
Yes,
we
sir.
do in the between? We have to look after our own self. We have to look after our own ships and fellow colleagues at that time when we are sailing around on that waters. Various organizations are working with the regional governments in that particular region, and some changes have been taking place. But at the same time, it is a very very slow process. And so therefore, how do we build in our own coping mechanisms and skills so that we have to run the ships, we have to go out, and we have to trade, but we can't sit just like the ship is going in a high risk area, so we don't go that ship. How many times in a year will you do that? So on the other side, you can try and prepare yourself better, and you can reskill yourself around it. That will really help you to deal with any crisis situation. Piracy again is a one form of crisis. There are several other crises where the seafarers may find themselves in a day-to-day life.
Yes, sir. Piracy is a vast, very big topic, and Somalia nowadays I've transited many times, but in the age of armed guards and BMP-5. But Gulf of Guinea is another big issue that we will cover that maybe some other session.
Yeah.
So, can you just share a little bit about ISWAN's work activities around the mental health of seafarers in the lieu of recent seafarers committing suicides and missing from the vessels?
So, ISWAN, as I said, that ISWAN is also operates a 24/7 helpline and we receive number of calls from seafarers, and these are very confidential in nature. And we started to receive calls from seafarers about that they're feeling lonely, they want to talk to somebody, and sometimes they feel stressed and depressed, and sometimes they are not able to contact their families for some reason or other. So the Highsun helpline, tries to help them by becoming a backbone for them and uh, putting the things together and listen, offer a listening ear basically. That at that time, what are they undergoing? It could be difficult to analyze by sitting and talking here, but it could be a very small issue for both of us, but for a seafarer who may be undergoing that particular issue, it could be a very big issue. So we need to understand their perspective and have a sense of empathy in our talk to the seafarers. So this is what we have developed in the 19 to talk to the seafarers first of all. Secondly, when once we receive some of the cases, we also refer them to the professionals. Such as now we have two counselors in the team, so we refer these cases to the counselors so that they can talk to the seafarers and they can try and provide the professional support to them. We also refer the cases to a psychiatrist and a psychologist as the need may be, and we have done some of the cases in the past when we have continued sessions with them. For example, even in the case of pilot case I mentioned, where the seafarers returned home, we provided them the psychological support, even from the counseling sessions we had with them on regular basis, so that they can again stand up on their own. And we need to all understand that the physical health and mental health, both can be cured if provided proper care, and both can ruin your life if you're not being provided the support. It's simple as that. So as you take medicine, you go to doctor, you talk to your friends that, oh, I'm not feeling well today, I'm having a fever, I'm having a headache. People hardly talk about that. I have not slept well from the last 2 days. I'm feeling agitated. I'm feeling anxious. Do we talk about that? Hardly anyone on board talk about it. So we need to create an environment on board where the people can come out freely with their thoughts, their feelings, and can share with each other. They're not made fun or joke around it. Every person has a different level of stress, how much they can take. Because nowadays you have better internet facilities on board. So all the news from the home, your relatives, your friends, is everything is coming on board within a minute. WhatsApp, and you get everything what is happening around. So you're getting stress around it as well. At the same time, your work pressures, your commercial pressures, or maybe your machinery is not performing well, and because of that you are having a pressure, whatever the things may be. So, or maybe your cook, as I said, is not good and is not preparing your favorite food, and people are taking stress around it. So it could be different things what you can get. So how do you manage those things is what ISWAN is trying to propagate, and how do you manage and build in your coping mechanisms around that. COVID has given us a lot of uh, example here that how we worked around for the welfare of CPS. We launched the frequently asked questions for the CPS. We launched the kind of audio exercise for them. They can do in their free time. Even a psychologist shared a video how, like, if you're on board, if you're not getting sign up, what you can do around that, and
Okay.
to just let. That's very important to CPS to basically understand that situation. Some of the situations may not be in your control. So why do you need to worry about that situation if the things are not in your control? People have to be given a different perspective. So that is what we try and do in our discussions and counseling. Then, as you mentioned just a few minutes back about the free guides which have been provided to
Yeah.
the seafarers. Along with that, we have also launched this training courses for the seafarers, and we are delivering these courses to the seafarers through online means nowadays.
Okay.
Because of the COVID, earlier we were doing face-to-face things, but now because of COVID, everything has been shifted to one of the
Online.
online platforms. So that's what we have am I audible now?
Yes,
Okay,
sir.
sure.
You are.
Okay, sure. Okay, so yeah, so these are the things that we are trying to do, and then now we have also launched a mentally healthy ship guide. Basically, this mentally healthy ship guide is for the shipping companies and manning agents, so that they can try and build in this a culture on board, and they can have a policy around mental health. A seafarer who has a mental health issue, and they also have a sense of that they will go back to ship again. It should not happen that they have been made redundant if they have a mental health issue. As I said, that physical health as well as mental health both
Mental health.
can treated. So we all need to join hands and make sure that if our fellow colleague on board needs any support, we should offer them. We should be available to them and have a confidential chat with them, and not make fun of them at all whenever they go through that thing, because today they are going through it, tomorrow it could be us, because the mental health issue can impact any one of us. We had some statistical data where it says that out of four, one person gets a mental health issue in their lifetime. So we need to understand these things, that it could be any one of us who could get into it, and so we need to be prepared for that, how to handle it.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That's well said. So people have to talk about their sadness, their depression, and others should not. It should be confidential, escalated to your higher authorities. And now, since we have 24/7 ISWAN helpline number, so at least now we have somebody to talk to, and you have trained professionals sitting there who are trained to understand the issues and handle it properly. ISPAN has marked its presence in many regions of the world. So can you just share the regions where it's available?
At the moment, ISWAN is the head office based in UK, and the regional offices are based in India and in Philippines and in Nigeria. So we work on
Okay.
a regional work program where we basically the regions try and help the seafarers directly by working with the various government organizations. Like in India, we work very closely with the DG Shipping. We work very closely with the industry stakeholders and the unions and the welfare organizations. We have a program steering group in India. I'm not sure how many of the viewers will know about it. This program steering group was set up earlier in the time of MPHRP, when the Maritime Piracy Humanitarian Response Program was undergoing. And this has been continuing now since then. And it's a very unique group of different senior stakeholders from different organizations, from the government, from the industry, like INSA, MASA, FOSMA, from the unions, NUSI, FSUI, MUI, the welfare organizations such as Mission to Seafarer, Sailor Society, and the other professional associations like the CMMI, VISTA, and a few others, and IWSF. I'm sure I've not missed out anyone. And so we all group together once in a quarter, and we talk about just welfare of seafarers. And you can imagine that every stakeholder from this medium also, I would like to tell each and every seafarer around, at least for Indian seafarers, that all the stakeholders are really caring for your safety and for your well-being. That is the reason that they all support each other when it comes around, how to look after the seafarers' well-being. It could be that some of the cases may not get the right support as per your this thing, but everybody tries that our seafarers gets the best support they can.
Yes, sir. How about your family support, sir, in your this venture?
I think my family is totally supportive of me, and that's the reason that I've been continuing in this field from the last now 9 years. In fact, I started off, as I said, I came back from my captivity around 2011, and it's been 10 years now, and that I have returned from my captivity. And since then, I've been working, first of all, as voluntary, helping some of the seafarers. My family was with me at that time also, that they told me that if you want to go back at ship, we are all fine. Just go there, but don't go to the piracy prone area. I said, okay, that's why. So I went back again to sailing. I did a contract again, and once I came back, I because at the same time I was also helping some of the families whose seafarers were there in captivity in Somalia and on a voluntary basis. So the ITF recognized that, and they were about to launch a program on the piracy program, on the maritime piracy humanitarian response program, and the offer came to me that if you like to
Okay.
look at this program. And since then, I've been looking after the MPHRP program, and we got immense, we're so obliged that we were able to bring back seafarers from captivity. We started off by providing support to the seafarers who were there, to the families of those seafarers who were in captivity. But then we realized that, it's not getting through, because unless and until we get the people back, these families will still be vulnerable. And we started working on can we bring the seafarers back from captivity when the companies had abandoned them and there was nobody else who could support them. So we worked with various stakeholders, again, international organizations, including from India. We got a lot of support from some of the organizations. And with that due support, we were able to bring back, I'm sure you might have heard about the small venture Indians who were there on that ship, were there in captivity for about 4 years. MV Albedo, who were there in captivity for about 4.5 years. So, the seafarers, Naham 3, and then now the Iranians 5.5, 4 years, all 3, 4 years, 5 years plus seafarers. So we were working with various organizations to, get these lives back
Back.
and to give them another life altogether. So, and after that, once the piracy, all the seafarers were returned home, the piracy program burst into ICE1. And since then, I have been given additional responsibility for ICE1 to look after the regional work program across not only in India but also the Philippines and Nigeria. So I've been looking after that, and I've been, my family is fully supportive of. I used to travel a lot because of this whole thing, and so it used to be some times in my life when I used to be at home for about 3 or 4 days in a month, and I used to travel
It's
here and
worse
there.
than being a marina then.
Yeah, no, but I used to love that because I used to go there different cities and used to do different workshops, meet with different people, raise the profile of the welfare and well-being of seafarers, meet the families. We used to go and search the families. It
Wow.
was not easy. When I went to Sri Lanka, I could recall back in 2012 when I went for the first time in Sri Lanka. I went there for a conference, but I went 2 days in advance, and I was searching for
Okay.
that 2 days for some of the families whose CPS were in captivity in Somalia. And because I had no information, what are their even addresses? And luckily, I found about 3 families in Sri Lanka. And since then, they were helped by the government. Then after that, I handed over to their government. And so, it's all about that. Then we went to a lot of times. I used to go to Bangladesh because I was covering South Asia at that time. So I used to
Yes,
go
sir.
very frequently to Bangladesh. I used to help the families and to get the right support, the emotional support what they need that time. So all these things, took a lot of time and energy, and I'm really thankful to and grateful that I have a wonderful family who is supporting me all the time.
We are also, sir, we are also grateful to them. More power to them. Because i- without them, it's a common for everybody. We need a family support if we want to excel in anything. And you are doing it for the welfare and betterment of seafarers. So salute to you, sir.
Thank you so much, Vinod. Thank you so much for your kind words.
Actually, being a marina, active marina, we only talk about BMP5 and taking all the precautions as per company policies, but nobody talks like I mean, I learned today, and many of our viewers, and they will learn today in this session, that nobody talks about the companies who have abandoned them, the ones who have been hijacked and abandoned them, 3, 4 years. Good companies, they negotiate and get them off, but then the seafarers going home. Not many companies have HR policies, have HR talking to the families, talking to the seafarers after the sign off. And some of the seafarers going through that trauma. Again, sir, being a captain, I would say that abandoned ship and fire and all those other, that is again act of God, but that is under your control. But getting hijacked and this piracy, it's totally beyond your control. And the person who has gone through, nobody else. I've not been hijacked so far. but I can never understand the trauma of the person who has actually gone through that experience. And ICE1 is working and taking care of those persons. So I really have, huge respect for you guys, sir.
Thank you so much, Vinod. Before we end, I just want to share one information to our seafarers. I think we have not touched
Sure.
on this topic around the campaign against the non-registered crewing agencies. So this is one of the
Yes, sir,
area which
please.
the regional work program is focusing right now, and a lot of more focus has been done. And we need to create more and more awareness among our fellow seafarers. Presently, every week we get at least a dozen cases from seafarers just that they have paid money to a any
Agents.
agent, RPSL, non-RPSL, whatever, and they paid money to a crewing agency, and they have either run away or they are now dumped on board a ship which is abandoned or which is unseaworthy. Some of the cases the seafarers haven't returned home. They, they have been mysteriously missing from the ship. Some of the seafarers have find themselves to now in a jail in a foreign country. Can you imagine these kind of situations, how they go through? And the families who have took the loans to help the seafarers to get their education, that the children can go out and work on ships. Further, they took loans to get these crewing agents to get them some money as a service charges and all that. I think high time that we seafarers realize this whole thing, that this is not going to work anymore. We need to stop paying money to the crewing agencies. Unless and until we do that, unless and until we take this step and we pledge today that we will not pay any money to any crewing agency for any kind of job, these things are going to be exploited. Our seafarers are going to be exploited day and day. Now, because of COVID, we are receiving again a number of complaints because there is a lesser job, or there is a perspective made around where the seafarers are getting lesser jobs, and there have been a number of seafarers who are waiting for jobs in the last couple of years and they could not get a job. Now, because of desperation, they take these steps. Again, I would urge it that many of these seafarers find themselves in a very, very difficult condition. Even after paying money to a crewing agent, if the situation would have been solved, we would not have said anything to you. It's your choice. It's your money. But at the same time, the situation is not helping you. You're getting into a more worse situations where your family is also going to get impacted. Recently, we find a seafarer who committed suicide, that he paid about 2.5 lakh or about $2,500 pounds to a crewing agent before he went on that ship. Now you can imagine the state of his family right now, and what are the circumstances that he committed suicide. The flag state doesn't respond. There is no PNI club. There is no insurance. There is nothing. How can the family get any kind of support? So in these circumstances, I think every seafarer should have a responsibility to themselves and also to their loved ones at home. And before taking any of these kind of steps, after all, it's your life, it's your hard money, it's your decision. We are only here to guide you. So please take some of these valuable advices with you before we say goodbye to this session.
It's one of the most valuable advice because that is at present it's one of the most hot topic. Many of the seafarers they have completed their pre-C and the GP rating courses and waiting for years and sending me messages and many others. They through any means they'll try to find a job and some of them will send a message that they have been lured by some agents, paid lakhs of rupees and still not given a ship, and in case ultimately if they find a ship, then they end up getting in jail or the ship is abandoned and then going through the trauma, going through the depression. So again, sir, like you said, we all should pledge the seafarers not to give any money to these agents, be it RPSL, non-RPSL, because that is also another issue. They show that they have RPSL, but then later on it find out that it's not there. I hope the guys are listening that, because again they will argue then what should we do next if we don't pay money.
I think the important decision is that you need to take the step. One is the wrong direction, one is the very wrong direction. Which direction are you going to take? You are not going to take any of the direction. You need to find a way for yourself, guys. You could do something other. If you're not getting job at sea, I understand that you have put up more money, but by sitting at home, it's not the solution. by you can do some other activities, you can do some other skill trainings, you can do some work in other workshops or in some other industry where at least you can get some kind of experience. This is the time when you need to build up your experience, and do not worry about the money. Money will come to your way if you have experience, if you have capability, and if you are, you have the skills, right attitude and the right skills in you. A job will come to your door. May not be today, maybe tomorrow. Believe in yourself. That is the key thing. That always believe in yourself. What is that you will succeed one day. I think these are some important points, statements I would to our youngsters, that don't think that shipping is just the end of the world. There's hundreds of other opportunities that you can still tap on. There could be factories in different ports. There could be some work in the shipyards, or in the some other areas like the repair yards. Try and do some other activities. If not, you're not able to go. At least your families will be at least be happy that at least my son or my daughter is working somewhere, and they will not be anxious every day morning by looking at you at home, right? From the last 2 years, if a son is sitting at home, it would have been a very difficult time for a mother or father. They may not come and speak to you directly, but from inside they may be going a lot of things. So please understand these situations, and that the family is also caring for you, and you can do some other meaningful work where you can find at least try and get some more experience in the work what you do, and that can help you further in your whole life.
Yes, sir, truly. Yes, sir, rightly said. Even if you're not able to get your vessel 1 year, 1.5 year, 2 years, like you said, we also discussed this some other live session. कोई काम छोटा बड़ा नहीं होता. Do something. Do something. You will get experience. Salary may be less, maybe more, doesn't matter, but you will gain experience. It will help you. Someday in your life, it is going to help you. So at the end, sir, thank you so much for coming live. On behalf of Maritime Universe, Captain Vijay, I thank you so much. I learned a lot of things about IceOne, the working structure, and the things that IceOne does. Now at least I know. And for all the seafarers, for all the guys who are working on ships and in any depression or in any sort of any problems, if you're in any kind of any trouble, if I may say this, IceOne is there for you.
Thank you. Thank you, Vinod. Thank you, Vijay. Sorry. And thank you so much for giving us this opportunity today. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. The pleasure is mine. And thank you so much. And definitely we would have some session on any other topic someday later.
Perfect. I'll be
so thank you so much, sir. So thank you so much for joining in, sir. Bye-bye. So guys, Mr. Chirag Bahari of IceOne, and we had a good session. So in case you guys missed this live, please watch this. It will be posted on Maritime Universe IGTV page, as well as my YouTube channel and my Instagram page as well, Captain Vijay. So this is Captain Vijay signing off. See you next time.